I know I enjoy the safety of my nice warm bed, and I'm sure you do the same, Kyle.
I sure do, Ethan, but if we want to keep it that way, then you'll want to stay far away from these areas. These are the top 10 terrifying neighborhoods around the world too scary to live in, Part 2.
First up, we have Renacimiento in Acapulco, Mexico. For years now, Acapulco has been listed as one of the most dangerous cities in Mexico, with more people losing their lives there than almost any other city in the country. And while the city was once home to Hollywood stars, nowadays, particularly in Renacimiento, the streets are filled with gang graffiti, empty offices, and burned down stalls. The area has been described as being run by a monster with 100 heads, in reference to the various cartels who operate in the area, and have no qualms about ending the lives of anybody who does anything even remotely out of line. In 2023, Acapulco as a whole averaged 111 homicides per 100,000 residents, if you want numbers to fully grasp how dangerous the area is. In Acapulco, the most life-threatening position also isn't one you'd think of. It's a taxi driver. More than 130 cabbies were slain in 2016, and with most of them being cartel controlled, they don't have any other option but to continue driving. And the sad truth is if they don't come up with enough money, they'll lose their life. Sometimes, even if they do, they won't survive. Now that is truly a scary place to call home.
So next on our list is the terrifying Freeport area of Monrovia, Liberia. So the West African nation has a pretty rocky past to say the least. It was one of the few countries that was colonized by America following the freeing of the slaves, but sadly the influx of new citizens caused some serious problems for the country. Those who traveled from America ended up bringing the twisted Western ideologies with them and enslaved the local citizens of Liberia. The country remained in a state of disarray for decades, and while some people did try to save it from the criminals who were running it, it only ended up making things worse. A massive war broke out in the country and violent generals started to take over. All the fighting and violence has completely destroyed the country and has made it one of the most impoverished countries on earth. The Freeport area of the capital city of Monrovia is completely littered with criminals, narcotics, and pollution. The nearby beaches are piled high with garbage, many people are selling narcotics to get by, and the threat of violent attacks persists 24/7. The most shocking reports to emerge from the country, though, are that some people have resorted to cannibalism for food. While soldiers would eat the generals they had eliminated in the heart of battle, practice has sadly been passed down to others, and it's just one of the many reasons why Monrovia's Freeport is one of the most dangerous places on earth.
Also known as the near South Side neighborhood, Peabody-Darst-Webbe is an area in St. Louis, Missouri that police have listed as the most dangerous in Missouri. Not only that, it's one of the most dangerous in the entirety of the United States. Crime rates in the area are 60% higher than the rest of St. Louis, and the violent crime rate, 1,189% higher than the national average. The sad reality is that the situation is only becoming more difficult for those living there, with crime rates increasing year by year. In fact, you have a 1 in 8 chance of being the victim of a crime by simply being in the area. The neighborhood is only home to around 2,500 people, and yet continues year by year to top lists in terms of homicides and violent crimes per area. It just shows that clearly life is cheap in the neighborhood, which is just a 7-minute drive from the famous Gateway Arch, according to Google Maps. As a whole, St. Louis is the most dangerous city in the entire United States, and as long as Peabody-Darst-Webbe continues to be a dangerous place to live, it'll earn its place atop that list.
There are a lot of places in Colombia's capital city of Bogota that are quite beautiful. There are also plenty of neighborhoods that you should stay far away from. One of the most infamous areas of the South American sea that is known for its out-of-control crime rate is the Ciudad Bolívar locality. Just from taking one look at this neighborhood, you can already tell that it is in a terrible state. Most people who live in Bolívar are well below the poverty line and cannot afford their own homes, so they are forced to build their own using whatever materials they can find. The actual purpose-built houses that can be found here have been left in shambles as no one can afford to maintain them. Because there are no jobs in the area and most people cannot even afford to pay for transit to take them to jobs, gang activity is the main source of income in Bolívar. It is not uncommon to find bodies lying in the unpaved streets of this neighborhood, as local police and government officials have seemingly decided that the area is beyond the point of repair. Some of the citizens of the area are recruited for military purposes, but any income they might generate will likely be stolen from the local gangs, ensuring that Bolívar remains one of the most impoverished and dangerous neighborhoods in all of Colombia.
I mentioned the second highest crime rate in the United States earlier, but the highest goes to the other St. Louis. that being East St. Louis in Illinois. With the area's population declining from over 80,000 in the 1950s to fewer than 20,000 today, the dangerous reputation of the area has led to most of the residents getting the same idea, packing up and leaving. For the around 18,000 people who still call the area home, they have to deal with heavy industry closures and a local government that's in severe debt. The city has even developed areas of urban prairie, where empty buildings have been torn down and whole blocks have been reclaimed by the surrounding vegetation. As you might expect, truck stops and half-rural businesses are now clustered around some of the worst areas. But the area has deep-rooted racial tensions dating back from the civil rights era, with some of the people influenced by their surroundings, including legends like Miles Davis and Ike and Tina Turner. Those three were a big part of the thriving blues and jazz scene in the 1950s, but almost all of that incredible musical history has been covered by the area's horrific crime rate, and the fact that almost 35% of people living there are well below the poverty line.
The once great city of New Orleans has seen a drastic and unfortunate change in recent years. What was once a fantastic spot for tourists to party and enjoy some nightlife has quickly turned into one of the most violent cities in all of America, and the crime has even started to seep into the tourist areas. One of the main areas where the gangs and crime of New Orleans originates is the terrifying Pines Village. Now, sadly, a large portion of the area was wiped out by the devastating effects of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, but the neighborhood has not been able to bounce back since the storm completely destroyed it. Many of the homes have been left in an apocalyptic state, and the ones that are abandoned have turned into hubs for gangs who are selling narcotics. The crime rate in the area is so bad that it is 469% above the national average and 289% above the state average. The only people who are willing to travel into the heart of the terrifying neighborhood these days are those who are looking to purchase their illegal substances as well as gang members. It seems like it is almost a guarantee that one person will lose their life to violence every day in Pines Village, and sadly, it is showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon.
There's no place in Costa Rica where you're more likely to be pickpocketed than in the Zona Roja district of San Jose. The area translates to red zone, and the substance dealing, robberies, assaults, and street fights to the maximum occur in the red zone, which is a refuge for criminals who operate non-stop, regardless of whether it is day or night. If you visit as a foreigner, you're even more at risk, as pickpockets and thieves in the area will do anything in their power to distract you and take anything of value from your person, and they'll go to extreme measures in the process. This area in San Jose is definitely one that you want to avoid when visiting the area, as while there are plenty of touristy areas in San Jose where locals are much more welcoming, you're much more likely to have a not so pleasant time if you find yourself in Zona Roja. Thousands of tourists who take a wrong turn or end up in the wrong area end up mugged every year in the area, and with crime rampant as it is, people aren't afraid to do it at any time, during the night, or as we've seen in multiple cases, in broad daylight.
The Chamelecon area of San Pedro Sula, Honduras is one of the most notorious neighborhoods for gang activity in all of Central America. That is because two of the most infamous crime organizations in the world, MS-13 and MS-18, control a vast portion of the city's dangerous neighborhood. These gangs will constantly fight over territory and have turned the entire city into one of the most dangerous places on the planet. The fall of the city all started back in 2004 after a terrible incident occurred where gang members took the lives of 28 innocent people on a tour bus. This caused a mass exodus from the heart of the city and resulted in the gangs becoming the dominant force in the area. Narcotics dealers and hitmen can be found all over the streets of this terrible place, and the barbed wire fences and crumbling buildings show that Chamelecon is a shell of its former self. The MS-13 and MS-18 have become so big that they have even expanded their territories to neighboring Central American countries like El Salvador and are continuing to cause problems for anyone they meet. In fact, one of the most notorious leaders of MS-13, Elmer Canales Rivera, was even indicted in the United States for orchestrating hundreds of killings and teaching his fellow gang members to use rocket launchers and other deadly weapons.
Cite Soleil has had it incredibly tough, as after the 2010 earthquake devastated most of Haiti, crime rose throughout the country, particularly in their capital city of Port-au-Prince. But of all the places in Port-au-Prince, Cite Soleil is the one where life is the hardest. Arguably the largest slum in the entirety of the Western Hemisphere, Cite Soleil suffers from massive unemployment, a sewage system that barely does its job, frequent power outages, and the constant problem of gang violence along with other crimes. Poverty is extremely rampant, and many residents are forced to steal in order to survive, further adding on to their horrible crime index. In fact, the area is so poor that one local delicacy is the mud cake, which is a biscuit made of clay and cooking oil. While the area wasn't exactly heaven on earth pre-earthquake, not only did it destroy people's entire lives, it had the unfortunate result of freeing tons of prisoners, as many violent offenders were released due to the damage. Police in the area have gone as far as to ask locals to take matters into their own hands, which doesn't seem like assuring words to me. And with the crime rate only escalating year by year, it seems like they'll have less and less ability to steer the area in the right direction. It's really a shame because Haiti has been through so much, and it's horrible to see a country absolutely devastated like they are.
So this one might be a bit of a surprise to some people, but the Quigley area of Albuquerque, New Mexico has evolved into one of the worst neighborhoods in all of America. With the growing rate of gangsters flowing into the state of New Mexico, it appears that many of them have chosen Quigley as their base of operations for conducting their shady businesses. While the American government is trying to clamp down on the crime that is unfolding in the area, it appears that it is only getting worse. Citizens of Quigley are 5 times more likely to be assaulted than anywhere else in America, and this can be attributed to random muggings and carjackings from local gangsters. It is one of the most lively areas for 911 calls, and the overall violent crime sits around 500% above the American national average. Most of the problems that occur in Quigley are a direct result of narcotics dealers in the area, but the growing concern is that these terrible crimes will start to pour into the rest of Albuquerque. Quigley's violent crime hit an astonishing 1,396% high between 2020 and 2021, which is almost impossible to comprehend. This has basically made the entire area a no-fly zone for anyone who lives in or visits Albuquerque, and Quigley is rapidly becoming one of the deadliest neighborhoods in all of America.
That's our list of 10 of the most terrifying neighborhoods around the world.
Which of these would you want to visit? Let us know in the comments below. For Most Amazing,
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you in the next one. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you in the next one.
So I think I stole your sentence there at the end.
That's fine.
Back.
Did you say I'm Ethan and did I say I'm Kyle?
No, I said for Most Amazing and then I let you say I'm
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For a second there, I'm like, did I say your name?
I mean, it's kind of funny if you switch it.
Yeah.